Tonight, Metro Police have a mother and a son behind bars charged with attempted homicide. And this comes after a shooting 2 weeks ago in Madison. Metro Police say Michelle Thornton and her 18-year-old son, DeAndre, shot a man after an argument in Rio Vista Drive. Last night, officers caught up with them on Gallatin Pike with guns in their car and arrested them both. They're each being held on a $500,000 bond.
The night of May 28, 2024 started like any other on Rio Vista Drive. Families were settling in, children were getting ready for bed. But at 9:30 p.m., everything changed. Gunshots rang out, piercing the quiet night. The sound was unmistakable. Panic filled the air as neighbors peered out their windows, their hearts pounding in their chests. One man lay bleeding on the ground, fighting for his life. The victim, whose name has not been released to the public, had been shot in the chest. He was quickly losing blood. First responders arrived on the scene within minutes, their sirens wailing in the distance. Every second counted. The victim was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As the ambulance sped away, detectives began their investigation. They knew they had a long night ahead of them. They would soon uncover a tale of love, betrayal, and shocking violence. The victim's daughter and her boyfriend had been having problems for weeks. They were on the verge of breaking up. That night, the boyfriend came over to the victim's house with his friend, Michelle Thornton. An argument broke out between the victim and the boyfriend. It escalated quickly. Voices were raised, insults were hurled, tensions were running high. The victim's daughter watched in horror as the argument spiraled out of control. She had never seen her father so angry. She pleaded with her boyfriend and his friend to leave, but it was too late. Michelle Thornton, in a moment of rage, allegedly pulled out a gun and shot the victim in the chest. The boyfriend and Michelle Thornton fled the scene, leaving the victim's daughter to grapple with the horrifying reality of what had just transpired. Detectives worked tirelessly, following every lead in a desperate race against time. They interviewed neighbors, the victim's daughter, and collected evidence from the crime scene. A composite sketch of the female suspect was released to the public, and a citywide manhunt began. The victim's daughter was able to identify the woman who shot her father as Michelle Thornton. She also identified the man who had accompanied Michelle Thornton to her house as her boyfriend's friend, DeAndre Thornton. As the investigation deepened, detectives made a startling discovery. Michelle Thornton was a licensed practical nurse, a caregiver sworn to heal, now a suspect in a violent crime. The community was stunned. For 11 agonizing days, Michelle and DeAndre Thornton remained at large. The city held its breath, wondering when and where they would be caught. Finally, on June 11, 2024, the long arm of the law caught up with them. A tip led police to a car traveling on Gallatin Pike North. Inside were Michelle and DeAndre Thornton. A search of the vehicle yielded a 9mm pistol and a .40 caliber handgun. Both were arrested and charged with attempted criminal homicide and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. They are currently being held in Metro Jail on a $510,000 bond each. The victim, who miraculously survived the shooting, faces a long and arduous recovery. His life will never be the same. The emotional scars of that night will likely linger forever. As for Michelle Thornton, her nursing career hangs in the balance. The Madison community, still reeling from the shock, is left to grapple with the question that always seems to arise in the aftermath of such senseless violence. Why?